bunch of crap. People, it's time to take back America. It's time to make America the America that foreigners think it still is, where you have real guaranteed rights, where you understand the common law, and the common law is what's applied in the courtroom, not this bullshit code, penal code, traffic court code, family court code, all which allows them to do exactly the opposite of what the Founding Fathers shed their blood for at Valley Forge and the battles that followed Valley Forge and before Valley Forge. We need to come together. We need those we the people grand juries not controlled by the judges. And we need a militia. So if the sheriff won't carry out the true bill of indictment, the people's militia will carry it out. And they should number at least 5 times the sheriff's department. So the sheriff can see that this isn't just a few crackpots. These are people of substance in the county. 25 for the grand jury, we the people grand jury, and 5 times whatever the sheriff's department employee base is, 5 times that many armed with guns. You know, you hear these nutcases, and I can only think of them as nutcases, saying, oh, we don't need guns that can fire more than 10 bullets in a clip. Yes, we do. Guns are not for deer hunting. They're not, the Second Amendment wasn't created so that you could go deer hunting or squirrel hunting or skunk hunting or whatever kind of hunting. The Second Amendment was there specifically so we the people, when the government got so completely rotten, could take it back by force, or at least force those in office to listen to us. That's why the Second Amendment is in the Constitution, right after the First Amendment, freedom of speech. The right to bear arms shall not be abridged. And it doesn't even say anything about except unless you were convicted of a felony. That's crap too. Think of the felonies the Founding Fathers would have all been convicted of if King George III and his international bank gangster who financed the war, the Rothschilds of the City of London, who owned the Bank of England since 1694, which means when King George III in 1776 had to borrow money, he borrowed it from the Bank of England, which was the private bank of the Rothschilds. Rothschild didn't care who won, who lost. He only cared that the money got paid back. And that's exactly why we're in all these other stupid wars right now. We're in Mali, got no business backing up the French in Mali. The French shouldn't even be there. Who cares which bunch of Islamic crazies run this landlocked place that produces the 3rd most gold in Africa? Who cares? It's not our business. It's the Africans' business. Maybe not even their business, just the people who live in Mali. How would you like to have the people of San Diego come up to your county in Santa Barbara or Ventura or wherever you are, or whatever county and whatever state you are, and say, we're going to tell you how to run your government because you people are just too stupid. So we're bringing sheriffs from San Diego County into your county and we're going to tell you how to run things. And this adventurous wars to get some kind of Islamic terrorist, this is all crap. We're going to go back to June of 2005 when I was doing live shows. For those of you that haven't seen the show, weren't here 7 years ago, I was doing live shows pointing out how ridiculous and interviewing people at the courthouse, as well as attending the courtroom proceedings, usually seated right behind Katherine Jackson, from June 2005.
Things seemed like they were falling apart and they were losing the grasp that they had. I think they panicked. And when they panicked, I think that they went into kind of a scorned, you know how lovers have scorns?
Right.
I think they went into a lover scorn.
Scorned lover syndrome.
That's what I think they did.
Slash and burn. Slash and burn. Take Michael, take everybody down if I'm not going to be a star.
Right. And I think that when they found out after Michael did the first video, Living with Michael Jackson, the Martin Bashir video, and also the rebuttal video, I think the husband and the mother, Jay Jackson, the husband, I think he decided you should get paid for this. And when they didn't pay them cash money, when they paid them, they said, okay, we'll give you a paid-for house and we'll give you a paid-for education. Janet replied back that, you know, the son may not even be alive to spend the vacation, but they wanted money. Right. And I think they had got together and decided they wanted money. And then when Chris Tucker didn't come through with the car, that made him even more mad.
Yes.
And so that's why I think they had gotten into lying about Michael Jackson, and then Tom Sneddon got a hold of it, and he was like, the opportunity I've been waiting years for.
Right. I think you summed it up really good, Pearl. Wow, you are. I want her back again. Now, it'd take me an hour to say what she just said in about 3 minutes, but that's exactly what I felt too. This family thought, hey, we're in the big time, and then all of a sudden it seemed to be slipping out of their fingers, and they panicked, and then they, you know, they ran into Bill Dickerman and attorney Larry Feldman, and they said, come here, my little darling.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
We will help you make lots of money. And we have a district attorney up in Santa Barbara that really wants to take them down. Mm-hmm. And Feldman, wasn't it the same attorney that ripped off Michael's insurance company for $20 million or something a decade ago?
Yes.
And I don't understand, Geraldine Hughes wrote such a good book.
I've read this book in 2 days. It is excellent. It's phenomenal. It's eye-opening. And I also interviewed Geraldine, and she's just a beautiful, wonderful, loving soul.
She is. You're right. We had her here, and we've shown that interview at least once after we originally aired it with Geraldine Hughes. People, you can go. You don't have to take Pearl Jr. or my word for it. You can go to Amazon.com and get Redemption by Geraldine Hughes. Order the book. If you got any qualms of whether Michael did anything to the Chandler boy, get the book. Get the real inside. This woman was the legal secretary for one of the attorneys. Hello. She had an insider's view, one that you need to get. Okay, now we've got another interview with a gal that came, I think her name is Annika, came all the way from someplace in Europe, maybe England. We'll go to that interview, and we'll be back with Pearl, William Wagener, and Brianna Moore on Second Thought, where we hope to give you second thoughts.
For one of the preliminary hearings, and she was being examined by both lawyers, and she was talking about how she hired an attorney to negotiate civil settlements with Michael Jackson prior to even meeting Michael Jackson, which was a bit of a revelation, really.
And that was September of '04?
Yeah.
And who was the attorneys on both sides? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was Mesereau, I think. Yeah, because Garrigus had been removed by then. It was Mesereau, Oxman, Sanger, and Yu on the defense side. And on the prosecution, it's Sneddon and his losers, really.
And on that day, what do you recall? Speak up a little louder. What do you recall on that day that was really significant on that day? Janet's statements?
Janet's statements, definitely. She was talking about, you know, hiring lawyers before she even met Michael. What did she want lawyers for if you haven't met him yet? That tells me a lot. You know, her demeanor, she didn't seem to be the mother of a child who'd been abused. You know, she seemed as if she couldn't care less about her child. It was more, you know, she was there she was on the spotlight, if you liked, and I think she likes that attention. And I think her comment, "I have no intelligence," you know, struck me as the only bit of truth she's told in this whole trial.
Are you planning to get into the courtroom tomorrow or the next day?
Yeah, I would like to. I'll be here for the lottery. So.
Were you here this morning at the 6:30 lottery?
Not for today's lottery, no. I'd rather be in when Michael's there.
Okay, so hopefully you'll get in tomorrow?
Hopefully.
All right, thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you.
Included misdemeanors, which is really just begging the jury, saying, please, please, we screwed up so bad, just give us a misdemeanor conviction so we don't look like the idiots, like the dirty four prosecutors we are, being Tom Sneddon, Zonen, Auchincloss, and Meg Nicola. Now, that said, enough. I found something on the internet. I never watch CNN or Fox or any of that anymore. Because it's only rubbish. It's all there, just like the Michael Jackson trial. They were telling you he's going to prison. It was all lies. It was all to make money on books and sell this and that. And it was all lies. That's why I attended the trial. I already suspected you weren't going to get the truth. So I want to go to a little tape that comes to us courtesy of a guy on the internet, known on the internet. His YouTube channel is Mr. Max Bliss. And
we're doing the wine thing now. Come back.
No, we're not doing the wine thing now.
All right, then go to the tape.
That's Mr. Wine Bliss. Watch this. We're going to try to repeat the wine test he did in a few minutes, but I want you to see what this guy did.
Does that make sense to you now? Wherever it's at? Sure. I don't know. It's disease in. Disease in is what it is. Disease in. Is it disease in? You
Yes.
Talk to me now. So okay, it's disease in.
He does a little test. You got to brush your teeth, you got to rinse your mouth with water, and then you use red wine to do the test. We're going to try to repeat this test, but I want you to see what he did first. It's about a disease that's being put in our atmosphere for you to contract, for you to be contaminated with. And I didn't want you to think that I just made this up. So here we go if we're ready.
We're fast forwarding. Ready now. Playing tape.
Here you go.
Tape's playing. Here we go.
Research into geoengineering and linked subjects like Morgellons, which is a skin condition which you end up with skin lesions that don't heal, and you get crystals forming and hairs growing out of those crystals. Now the hairs are made up of unusual elements associated with nanotechnology. They certainly aren't natural in the normal environment. So I've been looking at Morgellons, and I went to a site called Carnicom Institute, and it's run by a man called Cliff Carnicom, and he's been working extensively for 10 years on, or possibly longer, I'm not sure, on Morgellons, which is linked to aerosol spraying. He doesn't like to use the word chemtrails, he calls it aerosol spraying. Now, they come up with a simple test. The test is the red wine test. Now, in this test, basically, what you do is swill some red wine for about 20 to 30 seconds, or until your mouth is tingling sufficiently that you can feel something happening in your mouth. Now spit that out into this bowl, white bowl, cleaned it. I've brushed my teeth, I've washed my mouth out, rinsed it out with water and got everything out of there. So it's all nice and clean. And basically what you do is you take some wine, you swill it for 20-30 seconds, wait for that tingling, and then we'll have a look and see what comes out. This is fairly reasonable wine. It's not filled with sediment or anything, you know, it's normal red wine. I'll pour a little bit more in the glass. It's nice and fresh. There's no sediment in that wine. It's not right at the bottom, okay? So I'm going to take a swill, and then I'll be quiet for about 20 to 30 seconds while we have a quick look. Wow. Huh. And there you have it, my friends. If we, you see, there's quite a lot of wine in there. I'm trying to tip a little bit out. I'll swill it around so you can see. Basically what there are tiny hair-like fibres that seem to clump together